Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing awesome. Have you ever seen that your backend suddenly failed with a request timeout, even though everything was working yesterday? Today we'll talk about the request timeouts. Why do we need request timeouts, and how we can just configure the timeouts, or might be if you have faced a scenario like you are just making a call. So what we do generally, we internally calls the APIs using your HTTP client or might be some another. So what happens if the request take too long to respond? That might be a because of your long running job, or might be a long running SQL. It's taking time to respond. Then after a certain time your request got abort and you just get request timeout and you do not get any response. But if the same URL you hit through the browser or the any other client like your postman, then generally you get the response. So why this happens? So क्या कभी सोचा है? So let's talk about this in the video. Let me quickly share my screen and see you there. Hey, hello. I hope my screen is visible. I'm audible as well. So just give me a sec. Let me check few configurations here. Cool. Alright, then start with the video. What is a timeout? In simple, you can say a timeout is when you do not wait for something which is taking too long. You just use the timeout to say like I'm aborting this operation. Okay, so let's read what I have written here. A timeout is when a system stops waiting for a response because it's taking too long. So like we have client, it just hit an endpoint and now it's waiting, no response, aborts, timeout. So generally it happens like when we make a request, like we generally send a request to our UI or a website or a web system. Okay, so what it does, we send a request and internally on the backend it usually make a call to different services if you're working in legacy, or it also might be in your microservice as well. Okay, so what it does, it make a call to your another service, and that could be your HTTP client internally. So what it does, suppose the downstream service is taking too long to respond. So after certain time you just get an exception, request timeout, and the request is aborted. But if you just inside that code you just take the URL part and you hit the same request from your browser or postman, it takes time but you get the response, because there we do not have specified any timeouts and there's no timeouts. But we have default timeouts in our HTTP client and we can also configure them. Okay, so I'll walk you through with that. We have live code demo, so we have live code as well in this video. Okay, so let me walk you through with why do we have timeouts. Okay, so I think it's visible. Yeah, so why do we have timeouts? So the very first, it says threads being blocked forever. So what does it mean when it says threads being blocked forever? You can relate. Suppose you have a thread pool and you have 100 worker threads, and if an API you have hit an API and it takes 10 minutes to respond, and the entire time your thread is blocked. If 100 user hit the same endpoint, which means all the worker threads are just busy, and if it is taking too long, then your all threads are being blocked because they are waiting. No one can just send a request, your entire service or app will be crashed. It will know, you will not get any response, you will get stuck over there. Okay, so next we have the resource being exhausted. So like when you make a request, like your memory consumption is there, like your CPU, RAM. as we get the more traffic onto this server, so like our the memory consumption or the resources we are utilizing, that goes high. So if like the in the first example, like 100 users are hitting the same endpoint, then it will build up, it is taking time, it will build up your entire memory and your entire resource that would be exhausted. You will not be able to entertain any other request or anything, it will be blocked. Okay, so APIs hanging without control. APIs hanging without control, that you can just understand. uh, you have just mm, fall into the scenario of deadlock. You hit an API, it's sudden just running in infinite loop or a deadlock. Then what do you do? You cannot do anything. You have there is because there is no control. So make sure if it is just consuming all the resources, running infinite, or just stuck in a deadlock, there must be a timeout. Okay. Then cascading failures in microservices. All you might aware of this if you are working with microservices. So like generally, what we do in microservices, we downstream we call the another microservices like service A, service B, service C, and then your DB. So what happens inside that, your service A is just, it's called your chaining. Okay, so service, suppose your service your DB is taking too much time to respond, service C just taking time now, then service B, and apparently service A will also slow because it's not getting the data from the downstream services. So there you also have to define the timeouts. But nowadays we use the some design patterns or like the strategies like your circuit breaker, retry pattern, and all those. We'll talk about that. Like those are the best practices to use inside your microservice architecture. And the next is UI freezing for users. So it's like if you are in a website and you have just hit a request and the spinner is loading long, and you have just got stuck with folding your hands. Maybe you are playing chess or doing something, but you cannot do anything. So there must be also a timeout, and when it happens, you generally get a 5 or 4 bad gateway, something like that. Okay, so what more do we have here? Okay, so we have types of timeouts. So we have like your client timeouts, we have your server timeouts, we have gateway reverse proxy, we have database, and we have some network timeouts as well. Okay, so this you can just understand or read more about as per your need. So oh yeah, these are the some default timeouts. A few days back, like I stuck with one of the timeout thing. I'm working on C sharp currently, so that's why I thought I should share a little bit with you as well. So here now I'm just talking about in context of C sharp .NET. So for the like we have few default timeouts. Yeah, it's visible. So we have HTTP client, like the default timeout is 100 seconds. Who's just give me a sec. HTTP client, yeah, just give me a sec. Sorry guys. So where were we? So we have like HTTP client and the default in C sharp we have default timeout of यहाँ पे है यार camera. So we have default timeout of 100 seconds, and if we talk about Kestrel server we have request header timeout which is of 30 seconds. It is default, and keep alive timeout is 2 minutes. Then if we talk about your IS and ASP.NET Core module, we have 110 seconds, and for your SQL commands that we run inside using SQL, that we have default 30 seconds. It's all about your .NET. So let me show you. I prepared one code for this as well. Yep. So not this, not this. We can check that. Cool. We don't want this. Perfect. Cool. I hope you can see the screen. So this is the like one service, and what we can do here, we can define our custom timeouts and all those. So this is service, so let me show you with this one first. So if you don't know, like we have only this CS file and we are just running this CS file. We are not setting up any SDK or something like that. We have defined our controller, and with one single file we are running all these things in C sharp. If you don't know, so .NET 10 onwards we have this feature. Just give me a sec. So with .NET 10 onwards we have this feature. We can just compile a single file, and behind this in it does all the job. And if you don't know about this, I already have a video on my channel. I just published long back. Just go and check it out. You are just, it's flashing on the screen right now, so just go and check it out. Okay, so here what we have this SDK. We just created our builder, we added our controllers, and this is our API, and this is my controller. And here I have explicitly just added the delay of 5 seconds. Cool. And if I run this, so for this I am inside this. This is my request timeout. Yeah, I have request timeout here, so I can simply run .NET run request timeout.cs, and hopefully it should run. Yeah, it is running. It is running on port 5000. Let me go here. Where? Yeah, it has opened here. Cool. Okay, so what was our API URL was slow. So now you see, although it is taking 5 seconds to respond, I am getting the response here which is slow response. Can you imagine that? But if the same endpoint I am hitting, okay, I'll show you. Just wait and watch. So this is our first service, or the basic. This is your just basic one. I just created one controller and I explicitly added this. This delay could be from your downstream microservice. You can understand this as your downstream microservice or the service in your legacy. Now here what we have our builder, which is same controller, and suppose let me use this one here. Cool. So suppose here I'm defining the timeout as 2 seconds. What? 2 seconds, but I have added the delay here of 5 seconds. Okay, so what it will do? So where was I? I was at, yeah, so I have added the 2 seconds timeout, and then here I have explicitly defined the port because my this 5000 port is now in use from your this service, and for this service I have defined 6001, and inside this controller I have created your with the client factory one HTTP client. Okay, and I have added that in my di container, and here I just use dot, so here I just used that client and I made a request to that slow endpoint. Now I'll show you. So I'm just returning here, or if I'm getting any exception, so I'm just returning that exception. So what we will do, we'll simply go here, .net, this is my service.cs, could not because we have to pass the argument run as well because I want to run this service. So now it's running on port 601 and coleslaw is the URL. So we'll simply go here and I'll send this request to coleslaw. As you can see, we got 5 or 4 gateway timeout because we have explicitly defined that if any service is taking more than 2 seconds to respond, just abort that operation. You can see we are getting the request was cancelled due to the configured HTTP client timeout of 2 seconds elapsing. And what if I just comment here this timeout and I just simple register here this HTTP client, and now let me run this. What do you think? Will this work? Yeah, because default timeout is of 30 seconds, and although it's taking only your 5 seconds delay, we get the response with slow response. Although what you can do if you wanna just check the timeout stuff, what you can do, you can simply write here console.writeLine client.timeout. Probably it will show you the default timeout. So I have to make a call to call show. So what was the default timeout for your C#? 100 seconds. And what we are getting here, do we get any console statement here? Yeah, 1 minute 40 seconds, which is your 100 seconds. It's consoled here and we got the response. But if we are defining your custom this, then we'll just save our resources, our threads, our memory, and all those things. Okay, so this was just a basic example, but in the real applications you can just adjust these things. Always define your custom timeout, so it will help you to debug your services and run your application smoothly. Okay, so do I have any other stuff for this? Oh yeah, how to debug timeouts. Okay, so add timestamps before and after external calls. So it's like just add the timestamps when you are making the call and when the call is completion. What you can do, you can simply use the middleware and there are delegates over there and it will do the job for each request. It will just add the times or console the timestamps. Okay, you can use the logs and all those. Always use the correlation IDs. Now correlation ID is your unique identifier when you are just working with the distributed systems. You in a microservice architecture, when you calls your downstream services, so it's to uniquely identify the flow of your call. Okay, Check slow SQL queries. Yeah, if any SQL query is taking too long, then make sure to check, because you have to debug where it is taking too much time. Okay, check retry policies. Yeah, you can use the retry pattern. Okay, and check CPU memory thread pool blocking. If this is being blocked by some of the long running jobs or SQL queries. Okay, then check gateway timeout. This is the most common prod issue. Like we get the gateway timeout, so where we have to define our custom timeouts. Use distributed tracing like Zipkin or OpenTelemetry. So if you want any video on this, like how you can configure OpenTelemetry or Zipkin, so, or if you wanna just understand the retry policies, how it works with the real code example, so just drop a comment. I'll create a video on that. So, and here are some best practices. So we should use the HTTP client factory always. Okay, and always set explicitly timeouts, never rely on default. Yes, this is your as per your business need, but never rely on default, because you will never know like why it's failing. Okay, add caching and pagination to avoid long DB operations. Yeah, instead of making just on a single call everything, just split into the like pages, or just add the cache for the fast retrieval. Okay, use async non-blocking IO. Everybody know. Okay, so implement circuit breakers like your resilience forge or poly. So if you want video on this, like how we can integrate the circuit breaker, so drop a comment circuit breaker. I'll create a video on that, and there will see how circuit breaker works. Okay, कॉल तो नहीं आया नहीं. Cool. Then tune your DB indexes. Yeah, it helps to optimize your queries, read operations. Long latency of each downstream call. This should be log, not long. Just log the latency of each downstream call. So it will help you like this service is taking too much time, or there is a high latency, you have to reduce that, so you can just debug with that. So that was all about, I think you should know about the timeout. So yeah, if you found this video helpful or useful, then don't forget to like, subscribe or share, and also comment if you want a dedicated video on circuit breaker or retry patterns, then I'll definitely create the video on that. So yeah, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Bye bye.